everybody, Mr. Wally here, back at it again with this week's video lesson. This week, we are looking at one of the most important behind-the-scenes roles in all of theater, the director. Yeah, dramatic enough for you? That got enough flair for you? Do I have your attention now? I hope so, otherwise that entire, big energy build-up is really not much for anything. What even is a director, and what is directing? Well, a director, as we talked about briefly before, is the creative visionary behind the set of the entire show. They are the head of making sure everything looks the way they want it to, sounds the way they want it to, and the story makes sense to the story that they are trying to tell. They organize their designers and tell them how they want the scenes to look. They talk with their producers to make sure they have enough funding for their shows. And most importantly, they choose their actors and they give them directions on how they want them to act to bring their stories to life. Now, directing is a very individualistic art form. That means that if you ask 10 different directors how to direct, you're going to get 10 different answers. It really depends on what kind of director you want to be. But I can give you some general guidelines to help get you started on your journey. There are 4 concepts we're going to talk about today. The first is your scripts and how to understand it. The second is your dynamic blocking. The third are beats. And the fourth is your individual directing style. Are you ready to get started? Are you ready to proceed, Captain?
Make it so.
Fantastic, let's get started. Now, first and foremost, a director needs a script. Scripts are obviously a written out guideline of how a play is supposed to go out. Now, directors usually have very specific ones that are given to them by either the playhouse or the writer themselves. They have special instructions or special blocking written for just their eyes. We'll talk about blocking a little bit later, but let's just focus on the script for now. The director needs to follow that script exactly to the letter. If it's not in the script and they still do it, they're either breaking the law or they got permission from the script writer or whoever owns the copyright to that play to do that still. This happens actually quite a bit more often than you think, especially in education. Because teachers are often directors and because we often have audiences that won't necessarily like certain parts of shows, we need to get permissions from the people that own the copyrights to these plays in order to get certain things changed to make it more appealing for our audiences. Now, the director needs to know that script backwards, forwards, side to side, upside down, in 3 different languages. They need to know that script better than they know their own child sometimes. The script becomes their new little baby. They need to nourish and protect and make sure that everything works the way it should, right? So if you want to be a great director, make sure you read your script at least 3 times. The first time you read it is just for fun. It's just for you to enjoy the show. The second time is just for checking for understanding, making sure you understand that show completely. And number 3 is when you start to plan out what you actually want to happen in your show. Those last 2 parts take a lot more time, especially understanding. Understanding takes a lot of research and lots of double checking your facts and making sure you fully understand that story. Not just the story, but every single character and how they relate to that story. For planning, it's how you want each scene to look, how you want each shot framed, or how you want the stage set up in every single portion during this part, right? And it also relates to blocking. Hey, look at that. It's a transition into the next concept. Woo! So blocking is how you want your actors to act and move in their given space. So if you have a giant kick line you want going on in the middle of your scene, you'll have to go through and make sure everyone knows how to get into that kick line, especially if they're spread out all throughout the scene. Now, when you only have 2 actors, this can be relatively easy. But if you have, say, a chorus of 50 students, it's a bit more chaotic. So what is dynamic blocking? Dynamic blocking is how you want to move your actors specifically to make more dynamic movements. Let me explain here. So if we have our good old stage grid here, you remember this probably from our old stage directions unit, right? Upstage, downstage, stage left, stage right. I hope that left and right were correct. Whenever you have actors on this stage, this is how you can generally start off your blocking. Now, you don't normally want straight lines on any of these grids, meaning you don't want to have actors line up like a tic-tac-toe. If you have 1 per grid, you don't want them in straight lines ever. Why? Number 1, if you're the audience watching from down here looking straightwards, you're not going to see this person all the way back here. You're just not. You're blocking them off and you're blocking the actors off from seeing what's actually happening, and the audience as well. Same thing if you're going this way, you're blocking off any actors that could potentially be behind them or any set pieces. What you do want to do, however, is where we bring in dynamic blocking. You always want to work in diagonals. So you want actors to be staggered and make sure they're not on the same plane too much. You want clumps and you want diagonal lines. It makes a much more interesting scene. It guides the audience to either look this way or this way. If they just have a straight line, audiences are just going to see a wall. But if they see a diagonal, their eyes are either going to go this way or this way, and that's where you put your protagonist or your focal point of the scene. that's where you want to put it, at either the end of the diagonal or at the front of the diagonal. So that is dynamic blocking. It's making sure you're keeping your scenes interesting to look at and not just people standing in a straight line talking to each other. It's boring. We don't want boring. We want excitement, right? So we want diagonals, but we also want to make sure we are placing our actors in the ways that make sense. Let's take a look at a very quick example here. So say you've got a simple desk and a chair, and you have one character sitting at the desk and one character standing at the desk, right? So if you have one person sitting behind the desk in the chair and one person standing on the other side of the table, what can this infer, right? What can the audience get from just them standing like this? So most of my first imagery I think of is like, okay, there's a boss behind the chair, he's got the power, and the employee's standing there just like, like, oh, what do I do? I'm just kind of standing here. This is awkward, right? But what happens if we take that same character that's just standing there, we place them behind the chair? What happens? All the power really goes to the person standing now, because now they're looking over the chair, over the character in the chair, going like, oh, no, I'm in charge now, right? So whenever there's a change in like that, whenever there's a change in the character of who's in charge, or the character has a change in mindset, that's what's called a beat. Look at that. Another smooth transition. Haha. That's all a beat is. It's a change in power or a change in tone, a change in anything. Really, anytime something changes in a scene, it's a beat.
Bears eat beets. Oh. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not.
Not that, Dwight. No, Dwight. No, not those kind of beats. Okay, but hey, let's remember, sure, beats. So as you can imagine, beats are everywhere on a script. No, not those beats. Go away, not those beats. Beats are everywhere during any scene, any script. There's tons and tons and tons of beats. Anytime there's a shift in the character's position, a shift in the character's mood, a shift in the conversation, anytime something changes in a scene, there's a new beat. So good directors know where the beats are, when to highlight them, and when to make sure the audience knows there's a shift in movement, there's a shift in tone, a shift in the character's objective, right? That is a beat. Make sure you understand those appropriately so that when they come and when they're important, you can really, really hammer them home. Our final concept with directing comes with your individual directing style. Now, like I said in the beginning, this kind of relates to whoever you're talking to, right? You got 10 different ones, you're going to get 10 different styles. There's loads and loads of styles out there. I don't have time to tell you about all of them. But I can give you two basic concepts here. The first one is programming robots. The second one is planting a garden. I know that's really weird. Stick with me here. Let me explain how this works. So, the pros and cons to the programming robot style of director. They're usually very, 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 very specific with every single thing a character does on stage. Now, I want you to move 4 paces exactly to that spot. Then, turn over your left shoulder, look out to the camera softly, and say, no. Do it again! We're doing it again! Cut! That kind of director. Generally, that works really well, actually. The story is very crisp and clear, things make sense, everyone understands it, the actors do good performances. The cons to it, however, is, you look a little strict, but also you're restricting your actors and they're not able to really get into their characters as well as they should. Lots of actors put their own spin on characters, and that's why we like watching theater, right? We like seeing 3 different actors try to do a Hamlet, right? They all bring something different to the table, so that's your con to this style, but the rest of the story is going to be really, really well. The next style of directing would be planting a garden. So, this refers more to a director that's a little bit more laid back with everything, and lets the actor make more choices. When the actor's allowed to make more choices, they're able to put their own individual style on that character. Pros, the actors look a lot more natural on stage. They're able to look a lot more free and flowing with their characters because they can relate more to it during the process, and it feels more natural and it looks more fun for them. Cons, the actor can get a little overboard. The actors often need, direction to make sure they're not doing dumb things. Yeah, I'm looking at you. So whenever you see a questionable choice on a movie or a scene or pretty much anything, never ever blame the actors from now on. Now you know to blame the director, because the director either let them do that and said, yeah, that's okay, or they told them to do that and they said that's okay. Just keep that in mind. If someone's hiring Nicolas Cage, they know what they're getting. I love the man, but no. When I direct, I try to use a little bit of both. I try to give enough structure to my students, and I also try to make sure they're making choices, because that's very important skill to develop, is make sure you make choices as an actor, right? Right. Great. And that does it for our directing lesson. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you're in class now, I turn the time over to in-classroom teachers. And if you're online, head into Canvas and get work on the modules. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe, stay awesome. Bye-bye. What is dynamic blocking? Well, dynamic blocking relates more to specifically how you are placing your students, actors, sorry, that was a slip up. In-classroom teacher. Have a great day, everyone. Stay focused. Okay. And that does it for our directing. Okay. And that does it for our Okay. Directing is done with the teeth and the tongue. Blech. They're gonna hate that. Fantastic. Let's get started. Oh, I hope that wasn't cringy. Very possible that could have been cringy. Yeah, well.